Target has deviated from route and is heading toward next designated point at increased speed. Whoa.
Hello everyone, today we will be unboxing another figurine for the week. Here we have is a figure from the manufacturer's Good Smile Arts Shanghai, a figurine part of their HyperxBody line, is an articulated figure of the character Motoko Kusanagi, simple armored suit version, from the series攻殻機動隊, or Ghost in the Shell. Appearance based off the 1995 movie. As always, before we take the figurine out of its packaging, just in case you didn't know,攻殻機動隊, or The Ghost in the Shell, is a manga serialized in Kodansha's Zokan Kaizokuban in 1989 by the mangaka Shirou Masamune, who's also worked on other series like Buraku Majiku in 1983, Senjutsu Chokaku Orion in 1990, Dominion in 1985, and others. The Ghost in the Shell franchise has multiple adaptations, like Standalone Complex in 2002, Arise in 2013, SAC 2045 in 2020, but this figurine is actually based off the original movie adaptation by the same name,攻殻機動隊, or Ghost in the Shell, aired in 1995. There's also an alternative version, Ghost in the Shell 2.0, that was released in 2008, while also having a sequel movie called Innocence, or Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence, in 2004. All versions adapted by Studio's Production IG, while also having a brand new modern adaptation,攻殻機動隊 TV, or The Ghost in the Shell, aired in 2026 by Studio Science Saru. And the series also has a couple of games, but because we're talking about the original, I'm only going to mention the PlayStation 1 game, Ghost in the Shell, that was released in 1997 for the PlayStation 1. So here we have is Motoko, or Major, in her armored suit. This is her box rotating in 360. So without holding you guys back, let's just take her out of her packaging and see how the figurine looks. So here we have is the figurine of Motoko Kusanagi straight out of her packaging, and after opening up this little compartment here, we do see here that the figurine doesn't really come with that many accessories, but we do see here it is neatly packaged where everything is in place. But the only thing here with protective plastic is the figurine, to prevent it from getting any scratches, scrapes, or any damages while in transit or when it's in its box. So we do see here it's actually neatly packaged, while we also see here the other accessories on the side. So with that being said, let's just take everything out and see how they look up close. So here we have is the assembly instructions guide here for the HyperxBody, where we do see here on one segment of the sheet here it's all in Japanese, while on the other side is all in English. And I believe each side is almost the same translation, so if you're not able to read Japanese, you can read the English side. And if you're not able to read in English, you have is the Japanese side, which kind of makes sense because, you know, these are made specifically for a Japanese audience. But here, after unfolding it, it is a folded piece of paper, so after you unfold it like this, we have is the entirety of the assembly instructions guide here in this long sheet of paper. Or if we actually look up close here, we have is all the little reference sheet, or in this front view, we have is every text here also in Japanese and in English. while all the parts are being numbered here. And while you follow the instructions guide, you can kind of see which hand goes with which part goes in what corner, and what gun gets placed in which hand. We do see here is a reference picture around, and at the bottom we get is this other step while you connect the assault rifle. But don't worry, we will be doing this in the video, so if you want to see a specific segment, I'll probably leave it timestamped on the bottom. Here in the back we have is another set of instructions guide, but this here, all the text here is in Chinese. So again, since this is Good Smile Arts Shanghai, this is also translated into Chinese. But it's quite a similar instruction steps, so if you're not able to read Japanese or English and only read Chinese, you could read the back of the sheet and follow it as well. But I believe the front and the back are both the same, so either or, I think the instructions guide are quite simplistic. If you don't understand any other languages, you can still follow the pictures. So you can pause to whatever segment of the video you need to see the instructions guide, but we will be moving on to the figurine. So here we have is the figurine's base or standee that it comes with, where we do see here a little bit different from other figurine bases, or similar to other articulated figure bases, where we do see here we have is the text and information on the top portion of the base, where we do see on the front is all in English, where you do see is Bandai Visual, Kodansha, the mangaka's name, and at the bottom we do see here is the Japanese translation of it. What we have is this little logo here for HyperxBody, and we do see here that the base is quite reflective, and it is a clear plastic where you can kind of see, you could see through it, you can see my fingers here on the back. So it's kind of similar to other articulated figure bases, and this also does come with its own arm here. It does get this, I think the thicker end gets connected to the hole here, while the more thinner end gets connected to the body. And it is quite stiff, so you can actually move it around there with no problem. But if you want to tighten it, there are screws on each of those little holes where you can tighten it. But you can position it to whatever angle you want, or however you want to pose it. So you are free to pose whatever position you want it to. So let's just place this down and move on to the actual figurine. So here we have is Major or Motoko Kusanagi's figurine, and just like we do with every other figurine, we're going to be taking a closer look here starting from her foot area. So the figurine is a little bit small, so I'm going to do my best to show you guys all the detail of it. So we do see here she actually has a pretty decent paint job around the figurine. It's quite simplistic and there's not necessarily too much detail to it, but we do see here some areas where we can see articulation to it, such as its front foot area, where you can see it does bend a little, but it doesn't really bend downwards too much. But we do see here by her ankle area, it does have this little ball joint here where you can actually move it around. You could push it forward to the side, you could push it upwards, and you can also move her foot in a 360 motion, just like this. Just be careful when you do this, because the ball joint in the middle of it does kind of get out of position, so you want to make sure it's kind of aligned straight so you don't accidentally bend it in a way where it'll break. I did notice on this foot here, you can see the little metal piece that connects the foot is kind of sticking out. I'm probably gonna have to push that metal piece in, but because I'm wearing these gloves, it's a little bit hard to do. But you can see it has similar to articulations as her other foot, where you can push it back and forwards. The foot is a little bit more stiff, so you can kind of easily pose it without worrying about it getting any loose joints. So here's her shin guards here, which actually look really nicely sculpted, where you do see a lot of detail here on the back, where it kind of has that look of where it would when you do place it on and tie it up, which is quite nice. Again, it's a little bit simplistic, so there's not really too much sculpt around it. Here we have is her little knee joint there, where you do see it also has a little bit of articulation there, where you can move the foot all the way in this back motion here, where it doesn't really look that ugly when it bends there. So I think they did a pretty nice job there. I've seen other articulated figures where you do bend the knee and it kind of looks a little bit off, or kind of looks a little ugly, but here it actually looks pretty nicely done. You can't push the leg forward, it only bends backwards. And going up to here to her thigh portion, where you do see here there's a little bit of texture to it, where we do see is a little bit of thigh muscle around it, which looks quite nice as well. And you could see there is a line in between her thighs, but that's because since she is articulated, you could push her thighs around like this, or you could move her leg around in a 360 motion. So you could see it kind of separates there, similar to here to her right leg here, where it's kind of obscured because of her gun holster on the side. But we do see here it's a similar motion where you can rotate her leg 360, so you could do that for both the left and right leg. So I'm going up here to her middle portion of her body, so moving her hands to the side. And we do see here her waist is a little bit more flimsy, where you can kind of see it does get popped off from her top torso here, where you can see it constantly gets loose there. So that's kind of one thing I'm not really liking so far. But going to the back, they did a pretty nice job in sculpting her little middle underwear there, where you see it's kind of wrapped around her latex outfit, and it is a soft material there, so it's kind of similar to the Storm Collectibles Cobra unbox, where it's kind of like a softer material. It's still made out of plastic, but it's a little bit more flexible than the other parts. Here's her gun holster on the side there, which you can see the gun is like, or the pistol is straight in her holster there, which they do have a swap out to remove that. And you could move her leg to the side like this, where you gotta look, you can kind of see the joints on the inside and the bottom of between her legs there. And you can see that her legs also kind of go into this position here, where you can kind of pop them out and pop them in. And you can move her foot forward like this. And just be careful, because you can kind of see it's a little bit loose there, and all the joints there by her waist kind of gets a little bit flimsy. But you could move her legs to the back like this. But again, you can kind of see I'm having a little bit of difficulty here in the middle. But you could move her leg back like this. It goes to this high, like she's going in for a kick. A little bit awkward, but I guess it's like a pose you can do it if you'd like to. But oh my god. Okay, so you can see that I am here with the waist area. So that's one thing I'm kind of not really liking, is that this waist portion is kind of like loose, that it pops up quite easily. Or it could be that I'm just maybe that strong and I'm popping it out like that with a lot of force. But we do see here this little section, it actually looks really nicely sculpted. And this portion here is another area I'm not really liking as well. This piece is loose on the figurine, so you can kind of see it's like really, it just hanging in there. But it's the waist by her stomach area, where you see the top of her armor there, where you can see her breast on the top portion of it. And you could move by her torso area in a 360 motion like this. But just be careful when you are doing this, that you don't accidentally break the joint. I'm just showing you guys that you can, move it around like this. But again, this middle area is just hanging there, so it's kind of just loose there. Here's her arm, where you see it gets connected to her top of her armor, where it has a similar type of articulation that we saw with her legs. Going up to her little hand here, and the hand doesn't really have that much detail on it. It's basically just a gray glove with the rest of the sculpt, and you could move it because it is in a ball joint. But there's also a joint in the middle of her arm, where you can see you can disconnect it and move it around in 360, but just so I'm not messing up the figurine, I'm not really going to disconnect it. But we do see here it does bend forward, but it doesn't really bend back. And you can move it from side to side like this, similar to where her other hand. So where we could do a similar motion by pushing it from forward, back, side to side. But the glove here is white, like I said earlier, and not really too much texture around it, but it still looks pretty decent for what the figurine is supposed to represent. So let's move on to here to the top of her armor, where we do see these little bit of texture work around here, where you see is her collarbone. We see the little bit of tie here by her armor, and we do get a little bit of creases, but they're not really too noticeable with her little insert here on the back of her armor. And here from the top, we do see here's a little connection by her neck there, where it usually gets connected when we see in the series. And you can see her head's also in a ball joint as well. Going up to her facial sculpt, which we have is here is her default look, which actually looks really nice. I think, and if anything, the face is actually the most detailed area of the entirety of the figurine, including also her hair here, which actually looks sculpted quite nicely. She does have eyebrows underneath, but they're kind of not too obscured from her front bangs, but it does look like a really pretty nice detailed area. I love the way they painted her eyes, and I actually really do like the original 1995 animation style design that Motoko does have. And here we can see you can kind of push her head forwards because her head is in a ball joint, so you can actually see that she does also have this little, you can rotate her head in a 360 motion to position it to whatever area you want to have it in. And here to her top of her hair, you can see it's kind of a blend of a blackish, bluish type tint around it, and the sculpt work around it looks really nice as well. Similar to her little cowlick on the top portion of her hair, which looks pretty cute. It does feel a little fragile though, so just be careful when you touch the top of her hair lick. But with that being said, that should be the entirety of the figurine of Motoko, and if anything, it does actually look really nice. The only thing I could say negative about it is the waist area. It does feel a little bit flimsy, and I kind of don't really like how it's just this portion of the middle portion of it just could move around anywhere, so it's not necessarily like stiff on there. But regardless of it, I think it's a pretty nice figurine, and honestly I would recommend this for anyone who is a fan of the 1995 design because it looks really nice. But again, the paintwork is kind of mid. It kind of reminds me of a Pop-Up Parade figurine, but regardless, again, like I said, it's still an amazing figurine. So let's just place this on her stand and move on to the rest of her accessories. So with the addition of her default facial expression, as I'm showing you here, she does come with an additional 2 facial sculpts that the figurine does come included in the box. So normally you could just leave the head here connected to the body when you do switch out the face, but just for this video here, I'm going to be popping out her head and moving it to the side here, where we can see here she does have a visible line here in between the back of her hair in the front of her front bangs, where you do pop out, and this is how you would actually switch the facial sculpt while popping those 2 out. And I also did notice that there's small little text here, as where you do see is information for the figurine, which I wonder why they included this little text. It's a little cute, but it's not necessarily something you'll be seeing all the time since her front hair is blocking it. So here we have is her first facial expression that she does come with, where we do see here's kind of like a little smile with her eyes kind of looking to the side. And you can see they did a pretty nice job here on her pupils, and you can see the eyes are actually painted quite well. Again, normally when it comes to the figurine, I'm noticing that the facial sculpts are really nice. And after you do that, you do connect it like this, and this is how it looks from the side, from the front, and then you can also connect it back to the body like this, where you can kind of see her smiling expression a little bit more from this distance. So this is her second facial sculpt you do get with the figurine, and I'm not necessarily certain on what kind of face she's making here. It kind of has a little bit of one of her pupils are a little bit more smaller than the other. If I were to guess, I'm guessing this face is probably when she's aiming on the iron sight of one of the guns you do get from her assault rifle. So after connecting like this, you can see here this is the face. Another swap out you do get with Figurine. It's a little bit hard to tell, especially from this distance, but it's a little bit different from the two other ones we saw earlier. So here are all the facial sculpts that it does come with. Where we do see the more noticeable differences with each head. We have is one face is neutral, one face is smiling, and the other one has that little, almost like it's aiming look face. So just like we have its different facial sculpts, we do get a couple of swap out hands that the figurine does come with. You can see here is the neutral hands she does have. She does come with an additional 4 swap out hands for each arm. What we see here we mostly get is more of her gray hands, kind of have more swap outs than her white hand, or should I say her right hand, or should I say her left has more than her right. And we do see here the detail work around it looks, quite nice. Again, since this is a smaller scale figurine, there's not going to be really too much detail when it comes to her hand sculpts. But because these are a little bit tiny, I'm showing you guys like this, but don't worry, I will be placing them onto them. So you do get 2 hand sculpts here, where you can see it kind of looks like they're pointing their fingers, but they're actually supposed to be the hands that you do insert the guns that the figurine does come with. So you can see here both the left and right also have that option, while the left hand here has an option here where it's kind of like an open palm, but you can kind of see it's a little bit dented forwards. So I'm guessing this is when you kind of have her placed down, having her hands on the floor while the other one's holding one of the guns. So you only get 1 here for the left hand, and you don't really get too much for the right one. So here is the final swap out hand you do get. Again, there's not really too much hands you do get, and you mostly get them for the left hand. What we do see here is kind of a little bit of a closed open palm gesture hand, which I'm guessing this is supposed to be the one you place when you are holding either the rifle or the pistol, and you're holding on to her hand or holding on to the rifle. But that should be it for all the hand accessories. It's not really too much. So because she does come with a pistol, you can see in this holster area it does get disconnected here like this, and right after you disconnect this, it does come with an extra piece where the holster actually doesn't have anything in it. Just make sure you align it and connect it like this, and this is how it will look after connecting it without the gun in it. So after you do connect it, here we have is the, well, since I already have this hand already connected, you could use this hand scope to connect the little gun here accessory that it does come with. So again, I'm not really too familiar with guns, and I'm not really that much of a gun head, so I'm just gonna call this a pistol. So here on her side arm, we do get is this little pistol accessory, and honestly looks really nicely detailed. It kind of looks like it came straight out from the show. If you've seen the movie, she does carry this gun on her, and it actually looks really nice. What mostly is surprising though is that there is a little hole at the bottom. So you do get this little clip here, which is honestly really nice that they added that. It actually looks quite cute, and this gets inserted into this hole here. Just be careful because this is quite tiny, but you do connect that into that gun like this. And again, it's actually a really detailed gun. So this gets placed onto her hand sculpt here. So from then you could use this other hand sculpt on this side to hold onto her hand here to make that style, or make that pose that she's holding her gun to the side. So with the addition of her side arm, she does come with her main assault machine gun rifle. Again, I'm not really too, that much of a gunhead, so I'm not sharing the specific name of this. But we do see here we have is this little rifle here, which is the main one she uses. And the detail work on it looks okay. I think the pistol was a lot more detailed than this gun. Where we do see it has her iron sight here, where on the bottom here it does, similarly to the pistol, have a clip here, this little clip here, which again it is quite interesting that they decided to have it disconnected like this. It's actually quite cute that you can actually reload it like this, and this adds a little bit more to the look of the gun. So this rifle here looks actually pretty nicely done. And you do have the option of connecting this, supposed to be connected to her right arm, but because you can see here, I'm showing you guys, you could connect it to her left as well, depending on what arm you want to choose. But it's mainly on the instructions guide, it does say you're supposed to connect it to the right, but I'm just having it here on the left because I already have it connected. So it does come with this little shooting effect here, where you do see is the light for the assault rifle. And you can see here it does feel a little bit delicate, but not really too much. But I would advise to be kind of careful with this, because it kind of feels like you can snap the top of the like little effect there. But it is a little bit translucent, where you can kind of see through it, and it's actually quite a little nice feature to it, where you kind of have this little style like she's almost shooting her gun off. It does have a small little insert here on the back that gets connected to the submachine gun. And it would look like this, almost as if she's shooting her submachine gun. So with that being said, that should be the entirety of the unboxing of the figurine. So here we can see is all the accessories that the figurine does come with, including the two-face. And something that I didn't really show you guys, it does come with these two little joints here at the bottom, just in case you break anything on her wrist or on her foot. You could swap them out and connect these little pieces to replace those parts. But again, with that being said, that should be the end of this unboxing. So I'll leave you guys off here and tell you my opinions at the end. Alright guys, so that's going to be the end of this one. So that was Good Smile Arts Shanghai, HyperxBody articulated figure of the character Motoko Kusanagi, simple armored suit version from the series攻殻機動隊, or Ghost in the Shell. Appearance based off her 1995 movie version. So all in all, I gotta say is it actually looks really nicely sculpted, and I love the way it looks. It doesn't really have too much of accessories with it that I feel like they could have maybe added maybe a little bit more to it. What exactly, I'll be honest, I don't know. I just feel like it could have came with a little bit more. The paintwork is okay. It's kind of similar to a pop-up parade, where it's not too much detail. I think the scene this actually showed was mainly when she was in the market scene. If you've seen the movie, I'll probably put that as the intro. And I don't remember it showing up later because she had a different outfit. But honestly, it still looks really nice. After doing a quick Google search, I did see that the gun actually has a name. So I'll put a picture up here of the gun, which is CZN M22. So it is a submachine gun. And Motoko's pistol is actually a CZ100. So there's the guns. Again, it was just a quick Google search that I looked it up. So yeah, honestly, I think this is quite nice. I do know there's an SH Figure Arts Motoko Kusanagi based on her newer design from the TV series. Here's a couple of pictures, which that actually looks really nice as well. So if I do get the chance, I would probably order this and also do a video on it and probably have these side by side to compare. And judging by the photos, they do look a little bit more detailed than what we got here. But again, I gotta wait for my opinion on that, depending when I get it and how it looks. It also comes with its own Fujikoma, which is a plus, so it's not just the figurine. So there's not necessarily too much negative I could say about the figurine. The only thing I could say is that by the waist, it feels a little bit too like loose, where if you move her leg around, it kind of pops off in different directions and it kind of gets disconnected off its connections, which is a little bit negative. I also don't like the waist area or like the top middle stomach area where it's kind of just loose and it just flicks around wherever. So I mean, that's the only thing I can say negative, but besides that, it's still a cool looking figurine, and especially for the price, I think is something that I would recommend for anyone who is a fan of the 1995 design. So with that being said, I don't want to keep holding you guys back for too long, so this is where I'm going to end the video. If you have not actually checked out the Ghost in the Shell series, I highly recommend it. It's actually quite a fantastic series that I think everyone should at least give a try watching it. And start with the manga first, or if you don't have access to it, I guess just watch the 1995 movie. But from what I've heard from other people is that it's a lot different, especially from the newer TV series. It's just funny because the TV series is actually based off the manga, so you can go watch that if you don't want to read the manga. Yes, they did cut some, stuff, but it's still almost one-to-one to the manga, which is, I know it's a different vibe compared to the 1995 film, which is actually revolutionary in terms of the cyberpunk franchise. Which, it's funny because I heard people say that they hate the TV series, but that is the original, so it's like, maybe you were just a fan of the director of the movie more than the actual creator of the series, right? But either or, I think the rest of the Ghost in the Shell series is still fantastic. No matter how silly, no matter how serious, I think the overall franchise is absolutely amazing. Well, if anything, I highly recommend it. So with that being said, I'll leave you guys off with the figurine rotating in 360 and other close-up shots and different poses that I can think of. But anyways guys, that's going to be the end of this one. So as always support the original creators for said series of figurines that we unboxed. Thank you guys for coming through the channel and supporting it. I really do appreciate it. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I just forgot there is a live action movie for the series. Let's just act like that didn't exist.